Hello and good morning from New Zealand for this brunch time show for the where are we? Anyway, it's all too early for this kind of stuff. But the Jaguares have just played the Crusaders, and the Crusaders won the game 14-40 over in Argentina. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul, a website, podcast, YouTube channel, and Twitter account, bringing you the best in rugby opinion and predictions. And joining me this morning for this chat is Shane. How are you doing, sir?
Good, thanks, Paul. How are you?
I'm all very good, thank you. And he's going incognito. He's trying to confuse all the people who are watching. Sorry for those listening on the podcast. This doesn't make very good radio. But Shane is wearing his Springboks jersey, but he's actually from Australia. So don't let that confuse you too much as to where his allegiances lie for this one.
Still fits after all these years, Paul.
Oh, well, I do like it. It is a good cotton version. It's Canterbury, which means that obviously it's a couple of years old because it's not Essex. That's very true. So welcome, Jay, on the live chat. Yep, the Crusaders won this one 40-14. But then there were early errors by the Crusaders. This wasn't an error-free performance by any stretch. Mitchell Hunt kicking the ball dead from a penalty, and you're thinking it wasn't anywhere near the sideline. He just kicks it straight into the end zone, all a bit scratchy early on.
Yeah, I think it wasn't the clinical Crusaders, but it was certainly an error-filled game by both sides. But I think you'll find when we had a look in depth in the game, I felt that the Crusaders were always going to confidently win this one, playing the Argentinian game of getting stuck in and doing the basics right, which they did. And but certainly, yeah, the Crusaders would probably talk about what they've got to do to perhaps improve next week.
Well, before we get on to next week, let's get on to this week. And the first try was a bit against the run of play. The Crusaders had been defending very well, got a good kick out that Sanchez had to take into touch, that led them down into the end, and a great break by Crotty. To me, it looked like it had been knocked on, but the referee got it right. There were Jaguares' hands in there, and then Bridge dived into the corner. A very sort of typical winger's try nowadays, I guess, but still great skills to get it down and keep his body in the air.
Yeah, I can tell you I thought it went backwards as well. Yeah, I think it was run against the mill, perhaps the first try and perhaps the second try as well. So I think that it took the Crusaders every opportunity when they had the ball in the first half. I noticed that about the 20-minute mark, I think they scored the second try. They'd made 82 tackles to about 20. So yeah, it took their opportunities.
A bit confused by my stats today because the TV stats were about 20 tackles more than the online stats that I'm been getting. So, well, there's definitely there was a lot of defending by the Crusaders especially in that first quarter of the game or so. The Jaguares were playing all the game, playing all the rugby, lots of quick ball, great retention, lovely offloads, nice passes, and then dropping it or throwing the line out overthrown. In the end, the Jaguares conceded 22 turnovers. When you're doing that, you just lose all momentum and all possession.
And that's where the Crusaders hurt you, Paul, the most. They take advantage of the opportunities that they're given. And they certainly they make you pay, particularly in the first half, where they scored their 3 tries against probably against the territorial advantages.
Oh, very much against territorial advantage and against possession. So the second one was an intercept by Bridge, where basically the ball got thrown on the ground, it bounced, he was the first one onto it, and off he went. So again, the first two were there was a line out one, followed by a turnover for it. And then, again, we had the Jaguares being good at the restarts, going through 29 phases after that Bridge interception try and not coming away with any points. You can't afford to do that. against any team, never mind the Crusaders. But that shows this Crusaders team was up for defending and tackling today, and they definitely stuck to their task well.
Well, I was looking through those 29 phases, and I think I wrote something on Twitter too about it. The Crusaders know their defensive structure very well, and I was really concerned as a rugby fan that the Jaguares, no lack of effort on their part, but they could have done something more with the ball. They seemed like it was static and going nowhere, and the Crusaders knew, where their mate was next to them, and they confidently managed to dig themselves out of that hole.
Yeah, it's one thing that you don't see from the Crusaders. You don't see a player coming in off his man and two players having to tackle a player because someone's not trusted the inside man to take their player. The only time that really happened was late in the second half when there was a break on and everyone was scrambling anyway. So that wasn't really a trust issue. It was just more a matter of not counting who had which players in there. So we had that bridge try, and I've got written down here that Jaguares were good at the restarts. They won a couple of their own restarts. And there was a definite kicking difference in that first half in the fact that the Crusaders were happy just to kick long and let the Jaguares play from deep. Whereas when the Jaguares were kicking, it was always contested. It was always a high bomb that one of their players could get underneath. And I thought Boffolelli had a really good game under that high ball, challenging for those and disrupting or keeping possession in that situation. And it was a definite contrast in how they were both playing there.
Yeah, I noticed that a lot of the kicks that the Crusaders were doing, particularly in the first half, were after about 3 or 4 phases. So they'd hit it up for a few and then kick to the Argentinian end and allow the Argentinians to play out of their own half and see if they could get turnovers.
Yeah, the Crusaders kicked the ball 28 times in this game. The Jaguares 20. Normally, the Jaguares are one of the lowest kicking teams in the competition, so they got dragged into a more of a kicking contest than they used to. But yeah, there was an awful lot of kicking. Then, as you say, the Crusaders were clinical. They got into the Jaguares 22. Where everyone's looking at it, going, "Oh, this is going to be a line-out maul by the Crusaders," but it wasn't. It was there was a training ground move that released Masalelli, who went through and basically pretty much untouched to score a try. First phase off a line-out, very well worked move.
That was beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And you could tell that they'd probably done that all week in the training ground because he just went underneath, untouched, under the post.
Yep, good work by the coaches there. They clearly spotted something that the opposition, that the Jaguares weren't matching up on in that situation, and managed to pull the players apart.
And I think, Paul, they went to the camera shot of the coaching staff after that try, and they were all doing these handshakes. So it tells you that I think they'd practiced that one during the week.
Oh, absolutely. That was perhaps one of the Ronan Nogara's kind of plays, because I think he's down as the attack coach or the backs coach over there now. And then if we look at the stats, the Jaguares only lost 2 lineouts. It's a bit messy otherwise, but those 2 were both key lineouts. One was on a 5-meter lineout, one was on the 22 of the Crusaders. Cody Taylor picks the ball up off the back, sprints a good 60 meters, gets hauled up just short of the line, and a little knock on. Otherwise, we were going to see, I think it was Matt Todd, or was it Crosby, one of those 2, trying to touch it down. So we've got a bit of a let off there, the Jaguares, after their own mistake. That could easily have been another 7 points for the Crusaders at halftime.
Yeah, and I think they were very lucky probably not to go probably 33-0 at the half, because the Crusaders really were damaging when they got what little they had. And that was a great run by Cody Taylor. He played pretty well out there, I thought.
Yeah, he had a good game today. Looking at I think I remember him knocking on the ball a couple of times, but apart from that, yeah, he had a good game. Yeah, only 33% territory in that first half for the Crusaders, but they came out with a scoreline of 0-19, which shows you they were clinical. and their defence was good. And we see that in the stats as well, 85% tackling across the game, whereas the Jaguares are only 64% tackling and having to make nearly twice as many tackles as the Jaguares as well. So this was, there'll be a lot of tired bodies flying home to New Zealand at the end of this one. I must admit, I thought it was pretty much all over at that point, but with both sides, in fact, neither side kicked any sticks today. They all kicked the corner, which bucks the trend of a lot of the other teams over these last couple of weeks. And I think perhaps the Jaguares should have kicked some sticks a few times just to get some score, to get some early score and get the scoreboard ticking over, really.
I'm going to beg to differ. And I'm actually going to say I'm glad they tried something. I'm glad they tried something a little bit different in the second half. And get to a point, yeah, absolutely. Threes are vital. Probably not so much in the Crusaders part because they wanted to come away with bonus points in the tries. But I'm glad the Jaguares tried to do a few different things and see what they can pull off and what they can't pull off. And maybe it's Mario Ledesma's coaching that's starting to have an impact over some attacking rugby.
Yep, the scrum was much better this week. I'm not saying it was perfect. They definitely lost to a couple of key scrums, but overall, the scrummaging was better this week. The discipline has also been better as well. I think over this one, with actually the Crusaders giving up more penalties than the Jaguares. Good to see that everyone stayed on the pitch with no yellow cards. That's as well. There were a couple of moments where there could have been yellow cards given, but the referee was very sensible about it. Players late or not having their arms or whatever, players hit in the air as well. So it was, I think it was the referee had a good game in this one overall.
Unbelievably good, actually, Paul. I'm a big fan of Marius van Oosthuizen, and I do put that on Twitter quite a bit too. I thought he made the right decisions. He was calm about it. He went to the TMO when he needed to. He was confident with all his assistant referees as well. So he did a good job. I agree with you.
Yep. And then in the second half, I thought it was all over, but the Jaguares kept on going for the corner and finally managed to get themselves a try on 44 minutes. But what we saw straight after that was Mataleli had a great break down the right-hand side, one-on-one with his player. And there was nothing on, really. He shouldn't have got free. Did get free and offloaded to Mitch Hunt, who ran it nicely round under the posts.
Yeah, and when I saw that, it was all over. Mataleli was huge today. I thought he played a great game out there, and Mitch Hunt's certainly growing in confidence every time I see him. It was just clinical. That was clinical. You knew the Crusaders were going to bounce back after a try, and they did so.
They did, but then the Jaguares did the exact same thing. They bounced back as well. But I'll agree. This is probably the best performance I've seen from Mitch Hunt so far this season. He did get some breaks. He did do some running. Did run some support lines. Much more of an attacking threat. Not anywhere near what Richard Mwanga can be, but he was much less. Previously, I've just seen him as someone who kicks and just distributes, doesn't actually run with the ball much. But I think today he did much better at that. But a lovely tap and go from a long way out that the Jaguares took, kept the ball alive, and it's that kind of rugby that we saw from them even when they started 2 years ago. That's made us excited about Jaguares is their ability to break, offload, and keep the ball alive, which we've perhaps not seen as much of this season. It's been a bit more pragmatic than we've seen them in the previous two seasons.
Well, that was try of the week for me, Paul, with that counter-attack. Beautiful counter-attacking rugby by the Jaguares there, and they did deserve that try. I think the Crusaders' defence went to sleep there.
Yeah, and at that point I thought, maybe this game is back on. Maybe there is a chance here because there's still it was 2 tries to 4 tries. We've just had 3 tries in 8 minutes. This one, if it carries on exploding like this, could really blow out, and we could have a big score. It didn't happen. The Jaguares had their opportunities. They pushed deep into the Crusaders' territory. They had 2 5-metre lineouts. They also had a scrum about 7 metres out. But the Crusaders' defence held and repelled them. And that was the point where, to me, now it's all over. That they needed to score at that point, and they just couldn't finish it off.
And that's where the depth, because a lot of the Crusaders' bench was starting to come on at that time, and the ability in the confidence and the ability that they had to use their bench to see out some of the Jaguares and their finishes, and that's a real credit, because that third scrum, they were on a warning, but they pulled it off magnificently, and they counter-attacked, put a big kick in, and scored about a minute later. It shows you what pressure can be put on when you play the Crusaders, and how well they can do.
Yeah, so that last try, a breakaway try by the Jaguares, was on 52 minutes. They pretty much had the next 14 minutes of pressure against the Crusaders. Well, I think they had one attack. The Crusaders had a small one, which the Jaguares held out, and then they came back again and were held. And as you say, the third scrum under a warning, but they totally demolished the Jaguares scrum. And then 2 scores in 2 minutes, one by Crotty from a charge down in the corner, followed up by Boffelli, who I just put a tweet out saying how good he'd been under the high ball, drops the high ball, and Mazzolelli picks it up and breaks for the try. So 2 tries in 2 minutes, and yeah, you can certainly see how clinical and how destructive this Crusaders team can be.
And they're favourites for a reason, I think, Paul. I think the 2 wins that they've had on tour shows you that they are definitely up for winning and going back to back this year. So,
well, that's a big call. The other team that everyone's talking about now is the Hurricanes, and you've got to say those 2 teams are both looking very dangerous. I think it's going to come down a lot to getting players back, because obviously we saw Bowden Barrett, we got Ardy Surveyor, who else has been off the pitch? I think TJ Piranara went off injured as well at the weekend. This weekend, so it's and obviously on the Crusaders side, we've talked about it all season. Kieran Reid, Owen Franks, May, sort of your starting props for the Lions. For the Lions, no, for the All Blacks. Sorry, and obviously Richie Moanga as well. So it's going to depend on who they can get back, who they can have fit towards the end of the season. I think the difference between those 2. But so this one, the Jaguares had all the play. So they got 58% possession, 63% territory. They ran for more meters. They had more carries, more passes, and everything than the Crusaders. But where they let themselves down was turnovers conceded. 22 turnovers to 14 by the Crusaders. 14 is quite a high number in itself. And yet, even with all those extra runs, they only had a similar number of clean breaks to the Crusaders. So they had the opportunities, but they just couldn't break down the defence and then just turn over the ball too easily. I think is the story of this game.
Yeah, it's the final execution when they got the ball. And I think that's where and internationally as well, I think there's got to be some sort of skills coaching similar to what we've got over here with Mick Byrne. And so I think it's just a matter of developing those final technical skills that are going to help them in the future, because Super Rugby needs the Argentinian sides to play well as at the Rugby Championship level.
Absolutely. And let's have a quick chat about some of the players. I thought Havili was solid at the back, but not very, but didn't really stand out. Obviously, Mazzolelli and Bridge, we've talked about both of those 2, both with 2 tries each, racked up the meters.
I thought Crotty was awesome.
Crotty and Bateman was solid. Bateman was a bit quieter. Crotty was, as you say, showed lots of leadership. Got his own try as well with the charge down. Clearly was putting a lot of work off the ball that we don't necessarily see I think, in the stats, because yeah, he covered a lot of ground chasing things, because he was always at the breakdown, at the end of a break. He was always around it, either attacking or defending. So yeah, no, he had a big game as well. But the forwards on the whole didn't carry that much. Cody Taylor obviously got that one break, which racked up his meters. Luke Romano tried, but went nowhere for them. On the Jaguares side, I've talked about Buffelli, but most of his work was chasing kicks in this game, whereas Trucolet, I thought, also had a good game from fullback in this one, with some good runs. And any players that sort of caught your eye?
Well, I've got to say, obviously, Crotty, for me. I thought the finishes off the bench and Mitch Hunt was outstanding today. So I'd be... For the Argentinians, I think that they tried to play more as a team unit. And certainly, I can't single out any real individual player for them other than the fact that I thought the forward pack certainly tried as hard as they could with the ball in hand, but nothing really inspiring.
Yeah, I think for me, Sanchez is growing up, which has been good to see. I think the last couple of seasons I've thought he's been a bit flaky, and I've really been worried as to who was going to replace Hernandez. I didn't think Sanchez had it, but to me, I think he has become much more a steadying influence and more control. I don't think he's quite as flighty as he has been in the past. So it's good to see him over the last few games. And again, this game sort of being solid, kicked all his kicks, and yeah, didn't make any sort of wild, ludicrous mistakes. We should also probably talk on the defensive side of things, because Curtis got through a big shift with 13 tackles, added Sanders with 16 tackles, added Sanders with 13, and Alatoa, who had his problems at scrum time, but he put in a big shift around the park as well with another 10 tackles. Crotty, as we say, obviously always makes all his tackles, so that was good. And for a change, Matalelli didn't miss that many, he only missed one, which has been his problem in the past. But no, he had a very good shift defensively as well. On the Jaguares side, there's quite a few missed tackles. As I said, the percentage was much lower. Sanchez, I think, got quite a bit more traffic than he wanted, missing 4 tackles, as did Foutet at the inside centre. So I think it's a lot of running down the inside centre channel by the Crusaders that got them some joy out of running forwards into their backs there. Finally, quick check on the discipline, and no one gave up more than 2 penalties. So on the whole, that's pretty good. Even Lavanini only gave up 2 penalties, which for him is a good game.
Well, I think the discipline's improving with the Argentinian side week by week. I think that's something probably Mario Ledesma's worked on. I think the discipline from the Crusaders was really good, as it always had been. And, of course, the refereeing was, when it needed to be, it was sorted out very quickly as well.
Yeah, no, we had a couple of fisticuffs, but on the whole, it was a game in good spirits, and you say, yeah, with good discipline on both sides. So you wanted to have a quick chat about what the Crusaders need to do going forwards and how they need to change things up?
Well, they don't have to change too much. I thought they were a little bit rusty at times tonight with a few things, but that's probably when you have lack of the ball for about 65 minutes, you're going to probably be a little bit rusty when you have the ball at times. And that's credit to the Jaguares, who really tried hard at the breakdown. But I think all in all, the Crusaders, with this win and the win against the Lions and taking 9 competition points from their South African trip, have proved themselves again to be true contenders for the title later on. And as you said, it matters quite a bit whether they get some of their key players back at key moments, along with the Hurricanes. But I'm looking forward to seeing how the Crusaders go for the rest of the season, because I think they're going to play some good rugby.
They're definitely playing some good rugby, and they've got a couple of superstars out on the wings who are doing the work for them. and that's even when you've got players who are injured. I mean, they're not the first choice wingers naturally at the beginning of the season. I think Bridge was, but Masaleli wasn't. So it's good to see them. It's good to see the number of players for the Crusaders and also for the Chiefs who, when given an opportunity, have stepped up, because both sides have had a lot of injuries and both sides have had to use their extended training squads. Obviously, they're still talking about, and I've gone blank as to the prop's name, who they pulled off a building yard, who basically had effectively retired from professional rugby and was working on the building yards, and he got dragged back because of injuries. So it's great to see these guys have been given opportunity and can step up, and it goes to show that opportunity can be one of the biggest deciding factors to success, rather than necessarily how commitment or how good you are. It's a matter of just getting the chance at the right time when you're in form.
And it's that depth and that confidence, isn't it, Paul, that you can throw people into the deep end and they're going to perform to not only the standard that they might have had at provincial rugby, which is very high in New Zealand, but to Super Rugby level, which is a premium international rugby competition. And
you don't see, obviously when there are certain players like Whitelock and Retallick who get through a lot of work, and you see their presence on the pitch, but you don't really see players being excluded or not trusting a player who's coming in who's new. They'll still throw some crazy passes to them. They'll still run the support lines off them because they're expecting those passes. Whereas some other teams, at times it looks like, for example, Folau will look at a player and go, actually, no, you're no good, I'm not going to pass to you. And so you don't get that same sort of feeling with the new players that come into the Kiwi sides. They're expected to step up, and with that expectation comes responsibility, and they do, which is good and impressive.
That gets full respect for me, and that's why I really enjoy watching the Kiwi sides play, because they know the mate beside them, they trust the mate beside them, and really it's, if anything, other than great rugby, it's a story of mateship in their jumper. And I really enjoy that. That's an Australian quality also. We try.
That's a great comment, but I must say that looking at the Blues defensively, they don't always trust the guy inside to make the tackle. So it's not universal across all New Zealand teams.
They'll be right, Paul. They'll be right, mate.
They'll get there eventually.
They'll be right.
Cool. I think I've covered all the topics I was going to have a chat about. Any last comments from yourself?
No, I think I'm good, Paul.
Cool. So, Shane, why don't you let people know where they can get in touch and have a chat with you about rugby during the week? It's been an absolute pleasure having you on again.
Thank you very much, Paul. At School of Mate, SCOOLM8 on Twitter. And, come and say hello.
Link down below on the YouTube. Link, obviously, in the comments of the podcast as well to Shane's Twitter account and also to mine as well. I'm Paul, the guy behind DrivingMaul. Thank you very much for joining us. Please do subscribe through your favourite podcasting app. Give us a 5-star review, and do subscribe on YouTube. Red box down below, or my face right there for the recording, and there'll be a box there with my latest video as well. So go watch some more wonderful rugby stuff and enjoy whatever rugby you're watching.